any red zone opportunities, and I don't see him running 40 yards past people anymore. But if we get him press coverage, hopefully he can. But we brought him in to just play tight end, and if that means no catches, that means no catches. I mean, 10 catches, I mean 10 catches because he's open, and that's where the ball goes. But we just fortified a room that with a veteran player, just like we did with A.Q. Shipley.
And for Tom, I mean, we've talked about him before. Is there anything as he goes through this process that he has told you, boy, I wish I could do this quicker, better? Is it the checks at the line of scrimmage? Is there anything, coordination with his receivers? What?
Yeah, I mean, we talk constantly about how to make him more comfortable. And, as we formulate a game plan, we had a good conversations yesterday about what we think we need to do to beat these guys. And just like we do every week.
Right.
Okay, next is going to be Greg Allman.
Hey, Bruce, with an NFC beat, we only get to ask this every 8 years. But going to Denver, dealing with the altitude, I just want to ask you what your experience has been with that, whether it's a factor, and what if anything, you'll do differently this week to kind of mitigate that for your players.
Yeah, it is a factor, especially on long drives. It's a factor in 2 minutes when you're out there for a while. And so there are different ways to train. Sports science is doing some stuff with our guys. Oxygen therapy, some other things that you can do to train to help yourself be better in high altitudes. But most of it is just being in good shape and being ready to go.
These first 2 games, you've leaned on your starters, kind of the principal guys, a lot in terms of usage and plays. Will you deviate from that at all, knowing it's Denver and high altitude, or no, just as normal then?
No, it's just normal. We have enough of rotation guys to we don't need to be playing backups just because we're high altitude.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next is going to be Janelle Lane.
Hey, Coach. In watching practice, it looked like Justin Watson wasn't out there. He was on the side, kind of walking around with the training staff. I know he fell on his arm awkwardly during the game. Is he all right? What's the status with him?
He did not practice today.
Gotcha. How serious is that injury, you think?
It's day to day. We'll see. It's getting better, but he couldn't go today.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next is James Palmer.
Hey, Bruce, I know you kind of talked about week 1 with Mike Evans and how you guys had to change things a little bit because of the hamstring. Did you have to do anything different with him because of his health in week 2? And then by Sunday, do you think he'll be back to himself entirely?
I mean, still getting back in shape. He missed a lot of work, as far as conditioning. So it's just a matter of getting back in game shape and being able to stay out there for a long period of time. We substituted him quite a bit last week, and just getting him back healthy.
Not a lot of people probably talk about their safety duo in Justin Simmons and Kareem Jackson. What do you see when you put the tape on and see those 2 guys? They're kind of, in my mind, one of the better duos in the league. Really
solid. Good tacklers. Play the defense the way it's supposed to be played. And extremely well coached. And, they catch the ball when it's in the area. They don't drop many interceptions when the ball's tipped. So, and they can make plays on the ball. So they're good cover people also. So they're good interchangeable guys.
Thanks, Bruce.
Mm-hmm.
Next is going to be Ed Messina.
Hey, Bruce, when you look at tape on Jeff Driskel, obviously he came into the game, played 3 quarters last week, but how do you kind of scout him as a quarterback when maybe there's not quite as much tape of him?
Yeah, he's been around for a while. Played against him a couple of times, and he's a heck of an athlete. Got a great arm. I thought he played really well against Pittsburgh, against a really good defense, bringing them back. Almost had a shot to win it there at the end. So, yeah, he's a quality guy, and he can beat you with his legs. He can beat you with his arms, but he's a smart guy. And I thought he handled that situation he was in last week like a pro does.
Thank you.
Okay, next is Ira Kaufman.
Bruce, when you're playing an 0-2 team that suffered the kind of injuries that Denver has, including a guy like Von Miller, is part of your focus, Bruce, to talk to your guys about not to let their guard down and going into a game like this?
I don't think we're anybody that can let our guard down. We haven't done shit. I mean, we better have strapped on and ready to go. They're a very well-coached football team, and everybody's got injuries. So we're nobody to look past anybody. So, yeah, that message was passed.
And they've been very competitive, Bruce, the first 2 weeks.
They're a damn good football team. They can beat anybody on their schedule. And they had a chance to win that one, even with injuries, and should have won the first one, you know. So, yeah, I mean, their tape doesn't lie. They're good.
Next is going to be Scott Reynolds.
Hey, Bruce, when the schedule came out, you guys have a bye week that's the first week of December. It's an awfully long time without a break, having all these games in a row. What do you have to do as a team to prepare for that, to keep guys fresh into December so you can get to that bye week?
Well, you have that mini bye, you know, after Thursday night ball game, which comes at a good time for us. So you use that time to refresh. You basically got to watch your Wednesday, Thursday practices as this grinds out into week 7, 8, 9 in that area. So, yeah, I lean heavily on our sports science guys and all the data that we get from each individual player as far as our workloads and who's tired, who's not tired, and those type of things. So, yeah, you have to be very, very cautious of it.
And with Cortland Sutton out, I would imagine the Broncos will be using an awful lot of Jeudy. What did you see from his college tape, and what have you seen from him in the first 2 games so far?
Well, he can run, he can fly, you know, he can catch. He had a great career at Alabama. You know, they got Hamlin, who can also run. Hamilton, they got players, and you know, Fant is one of the best tight ends, young tight ends in the league. So, but Jerry Jeudy, he's a heck of a paid number 1 pick for a reason.
Thank you, Bruce.
Next is Kevin O'Donnell.
Hey, Bruce, coming off a game where you've had a rash of drops, and I know you pointed those out on Monday, are there things you do in practice to try to get guys more reps with, you know, with catching the ball, or could you dissect what was really causing some of those drops? Was it just a lack of focus?
Concentration. You drop the damn ball. I mean, you can go get on the jugs machine. You can beat yourself up about it if you wouldn't be here if you couldn't catch. So fix it.
And then how important is it to have a closer like you have with Fournette in the fourth quarter, a guy that with a lead you can just hand the ball off to and run over people?
Well, he did it once. Hopefully we can continue that trend, but we'll see if he is just that. He did it last week for us, and it's a luxury. I mean, to have 2 backs three backs really the way we have, and I like Keyshawn too. So yeah, it's a luxury to have a guy that has been there and done it.
Okay, next is Luke Easterling.
Bruce, your defense had 1 sack and no takeaways in week 1, and you lose the game. This week you have 5 sacks, you have 4 turnovers, you win the game. When you guys looked back at the tape, could you identify anything that was done particularly differently? Was it a matter of playing, the Panthers instead of the Saints? What do you think was the big cause for that, such a big jump in those big plays?
Well, we dropped 2 interceptions that we should have caught in New Orleans, and obviously we turned the ball over too many times. So they come in bunches. We had a good opportunity to strip sack. Shaq just missed one in that ball game also. So a turnover is a funny thing. They come in bunches sometimes, but some of it is the team you're playing.
And then in terms of the running game, we talk so much about who's going to be the lead back and who's the starter and who does this, but is it really the ideal situation to have a few guys that you trust to kind of play the hot hand and have maybe a starter and a finisher and to let them play different roles more than making sure you have, a featured guy that gets a certain amount of touches every week?
Yeah, I think that's the ideal situation. When everybody knows their role and accepts their role, that's the ideal situation.
All right, we have time for a few more. Next is going to be Rick Stroud.
Hey, Bruce, we saw in Ndamukong Suh, we've seen Golston, beat guys one-on-one inside. Vita's done a nice job. Is that part of the attention that Shaq Barrett is getting? And is that hey, welcome to leading the NFL in sacks. We're not going to let you get any one-on-ones anymore.
Yeah, that helps a bunch, and those guys work their tails off in the offseason to get bigger, stronger, right. Working on their toolbox, getting better moves. And, the attention to Jason and Shaq sometimes is going to open it up for those inside guys. So, and they're going to pressure that pocket, and those outside guys are going to continue to get their sacks also.
So what does Shaq have to do to adjust?
Just keep rushing and don't get caught up with the hype. All right.
Yeah.
Don't just win. All right. It's not about numbers. It's about winning.
Yeah.
Congratulate those other guys when they get the sacks.
There you go.
Our last two are going to come from Jenna Lane, then Greg Allman.
Hey, Coach, I understand that Tom Brady actually was the one that suggested it would be a great week to do a flea flicker this past week.
To do what? Say that again, Jen?
I heard that Tom was actually the one that suggested putting in a flea flicker in the game plan last week. And I know that you take input from all your quarterbacks and design a game plan with their input in mind, but he has seen so much football, so much more than a typical quarterback. What has it been like for you these last two games, getting that type of input from him when you guys put your game plan together?
Oh, it's great, but it's the wrong Tom. It was Tom Moore that put in the flea flicker, not Tom Brady. And so it was, but we listened to Tom Brady also. But Tom Moore has a hell of a lot of football background also.
Heck yeah, we got to give him the right credit, the necessary credit. Thank you for correcting me.
You bet.
All right, we'll close out with one from Greg Allman.
Hey, Bruce, I want to ask you, of the players on your team, what you see on the field, their intensity, their demeanor, who's probably the closest to your personality on the field?
I don't know. That's a tough one. That's one I'd have to think about. But as far as probably Brady, I mean, he can cuss pretty loud too.
Okay. Thanks, Coach.
All right, that's all for today. Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, guys.